The beat goes on. Tonight, our regular guests are Tony Amos, Barry Rushton, and Shane. And your host on The Beat Goes On, Gerard Smith.
Once again, a big welcome to The Beat Goes On. Tonight, our special guest is Sir Bob Harvey. The former mayor of Waitakere City now has a new job description on his card with Auckland City. It now reads, Champion for Auckland Overseas Investment. Sir Bob Jones joins us once again with Looking Back with Bob, and John Murphy from the Central Car Company in Green Lane has a couple of terrific bargains for us baby boomers. But first up on The Beat Goes On.
He's out there in the rain. He's out there in the sunshine. He's out there looking to find the best in movies and music. Our resident guru on all things movies and music, Barry Rushton.
Barry J. Rushton.
Jared, it is good to be back again, mate. It's good to be back on a Monday night. I like Monday nights. I look forward to them, I have to admit, my good friend.
Oh, I should hope so, Barry, because I wouldn't think that we were slave drivers here and forcing you with a whip to come and...
Well, you know, I tell you what, I normally never go and see movies on a Monday. They seem to always sort of be Tuesday, Wednesdays and on, you know. So Monday's always free, so it's always great to do it. You know? Funny thing about some of the movies, Jerry, you know, there's not a lot around, but there is, but there isn't, you know. And there's some new ones coming which look great. Yeah. But I went to see a movie just the other day. It's been out for about a week, and I thought, well, I'll go and see this. And it's based on an old television series called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Oh. Now, look, you know, it was an old... the TV series was started way back in about 64, ran from about late 64 to early 68, something like that. You know?
Every baby boomer remembers that.
Without a doubt. But the sad part about that whole TV series is that the first year it was done in black and white, and the writers of that series, they were sort of implausible sort of, you know, events, but they were sort of made feasible and they were very entertaining. You could sort of see, well, maybe that might happen, you know. Yeah. But the following series, well, they just sort of, the writers got out of balance. The writing became sort of like a self-parody and sort of basically sort of a slapstick stuff, you know.
So what is the name of this new movie?
The movie's called The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
It's called The Man from U.N.C.L.E., you know.
They haven't done any...
No, they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's actually produced by Guy Ritchie. Now, we all know Guy Ritchie, the ex from Madonna and so on and so forth, you know. So there's some great credence there. And not only that, remember Man from U.N.C.L.E., there were two people. Robert Vaughn played Napoleon Solo, and sort of David McCallum, was it, who played Ilya Kuryakin, you know, the Russian guy and the American guy. You know, remember?
Those names bring back memories.
Kuryakin, wonderful. Napoleon Solo. Well, George Clooney was actually slotted to actually play Napoleon Solo, but he had reoccurring back problems, so he couldn't do it. And it was handed down through a number of people: Tom Cruise, Ryan Gosling, Matt Damon from that series that you talked about the other day.
He couldn't do it?
Well, either they couldn't do it or they didn't settle on it, but they finally settled on a guy called Henry Cavill. He's an English actor, and he's well known for doing the last of the Superman series, 2003. Probably the best of all the Superman series is called Man of Steel. And so they gave him the Napoleon Solo, the American sort of part, you know, even though he's an English actor. And the Russian guy they gave to a guy called Arnie Hammer.
Putting all that together, Barry, did it work?
Well, this is the point. This is the great part about it. Guy Ritchie has still set it in the snazzy 60s, you know, so it's still sitting there. So before I have a talk about how it did work, have a quick little look.
Are they still following us?
Yes.
Does he have just one hand on the steering wheel?
Mm-hmm.
When you hear something that sounds like a gunshot, drive.
Did you get him?
Let's just hope he doesn't drive as quickly as he moves. Take a right. And then an immediate left.
Now what?
Take another left through the window. After you.
Nicely done.
Did work, Barry. It did work. It looks good, doesn't it?
A great throwback to the sort of like the early James Bond type movies. You know, the theme is fairly straightforward. You have,
but it's all been modernised.
you have America versus Russia. You know, there's a stray sort of nuclear bomb out there that someone's putting
Always has
together.
to be.
Always got to be a nuclear
Always
bomb.
gotta be a stray
there's
nuclear
a
bomb.
girl, you know, who in actual fact is the daughter of the scientist who's been kidnapped to work on the bomb. Usual, and she turns out to be a double agent as well, which is great. The English are there. Hugh Grant's in the movie, you know, and so he's incorporated those things. But it's not a cheesy thing. It's actually kept your interest all the way through. Not only that, when you think the thing's coming to an end, it's not, which is what I love. I love movies that, I'm quite enjoying this, you know, and it doesn't stop. There's another little twist at the end, which I think is fabulous. And it's sort of like it's breezy and it's elegant, and it kept my interest all the way through. There's quality. There's a bit of quality in here.
Well, if they used their brains and they did it well, it could be another Bourne conspiracy. It could be another James Bond type thing. I mean, they're perennial sellers, aren't they?
Well, exactly. The only difference, of course, now is those ones are generally set in sort of today's sort of area, and we have become more sophisticated with regards to spy type thrillers. You know, so this is set back to when it was still a bit cheesy in the way we look at it, but for the times it was great. So Guy Ritchie's done a great job. Man from U.N.C.L.E. If you're looking for a bit of entertainment, go and have a peek at this one. You'll enjoy it.
So what they have to do in that is make a 45 record look cutting edge.
Exactly. That you can actually get on your phone. Sure. See you, mate.
See you, Bev. Thank you, Barry. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, it's Sir Robert Jones. Bob has given up on the normal airlines and flown to Auckland in his brand new jet just to be on The Beat Goes On. It is with great pleasure we present Looking Back with Bob. Sir Robert Jones.
Hello, Derek.
Welcome once again to The Beat Goes On. We're looking back with Bob, and I bet you've got some wonderful memories of life in New Zealand right back to the end of the Second World War.
Right at the end of the start of the Second World War, which according to one newspaper correspondent I was responsible for, actually.
How were you
I'd
responsible
written
for the
something
Second World
about
War?
education, and he wrote, and you know, our men fought and died so Bob Jones could get a free education. So you can picture the scene, you know, in late 1939 when the news reached Hitler. There's a bloke about to be born in New Zealand. So what? They're going to give him a free education. By God, invade Poland at once. We won't have that. I mean, the nonsense that's published in newspapers, God, that's sloppy. I mean, why do they publish letters like that? No, I think, though, of course I have pre-school memories, but I guess everyone does, but a symbolic one was starting school at 5, and lo and behold, we were there. When was it, Jared? May or something? And my father turned up at school and gathered my sister and I. What's Dad doing? And we were taken home, dressed up to the extent we could be, on the bus, and we went into Wellington, second time in my life, from the hut. And Victory Day.
Victory Day, wow.
And it was dramatic and tiring for us as small kids.
And you have a
and
clear
the
memory
tens
of
of
it.
thousands amassed outside Parliament. Now, an historian I have enormous respect for, Paul Moon, Auckland historian. Paul, who's enormously prolific with books, for which I commend him, does a great service and they're very readable. I had a great issue with Paul once. He did a very good book on, very readable, 20th century New Zealand, and he said there was no public reaction, very stilted. I said, Paul, I was bloody well there.
You were there,
Let me assure you, son. So we argued about this for a long time. I won in the end because I then found further information. 80,000 people turned out in Auckland, marched up and down. I remember it very vividly, and I remember gripping my sister. We were appalled at the spectacle of my mother dancing in the street with a strange man. Right now, there's a big office tower, which I happen to own. Our offices are right in that spot. Yeah. And we were shocked. And massive turnouts again the following day. So I took a relish proving Paul wrong on that, but I was there to remember it very well. And that was a very dramatic day, Victory Day. But think about it in Germany, what it must have been like there. It must have been very horrible. I mean, the place was smashed, people were hungry, ghastly. Similarly in Japan, of course.
So that's amazing. Your dad actually came to the school and picked the two children up.
Other parents were turning up. Everybody went into town. Do you remember the weekly news, which every family
wasn't that good?
bought?
Yeah, and the pink
That's
cover.
right. No, that was the Free Lance.
Yeah.
There were 2 weekly magazines, and the weekly news had all the glossy photos in the middle. There's a funny story.
was
My
our
dad
former-
was a welder, and They devoted a feature once, must have been, I guess, late 50s, to New Zealand's first skyscraper, the building of Shell House on the terrace in Wellington. Well, I remember that well. Dad was welding on it. It was a steel structure, which is a great shame, actually. After the BNZ fiasco in the 60s, with the militant strikes and that, they stopped building buildings out of steel.
That's right.
And had they continued to do it, we wouldn't have had the earthquake issues. But that's another issue. And that was a militant
Could we talk
union.
about that in another program? Because
Sure,
I'd love to go
That's
over
a very
that.
interesting issue. Vis-a-vis the cost in New Zealand of that militant union that could never have been anticipated, and this is an area I know about. And Dad came home one night, and he was absolutely baffled. This is a working man, used to clocking in, all that sort of thing. And he was talking about these blokes that would come walking along, and he'd look down from the structure in suits, and they'd stop. And they'd talk for half an hour, I'd say. They'd talk for 40 minutes. I mean, what do their bosses say? All this and that. The world he knew was one of, standing over you and that you work. Well, because I worked in heaps of factories as a boy. There was such a labour shortage. The first thing you did in the school holidays, 13, 14, you got out the telephone book. We got telephones about 1953. But all boys worked after school in those post-war years.
They did,
there were so
didn't they?
many jobs.
Yeah.
But the conventional boys did newspaper delivery.
Yeah.
I did all sorts of things. There were Saturday night jobs at the Speedway, selling sweets and things. And I worked in my later school years, Thursday and Saturday night at a petrol station, dishing out petrol. All boys worked. Girls, oh God, they were protected.
Before we finish, Bob, did you ever see yourself being a successful man? Did you picture that as a...
Well, a successful man, I suppose, by the usual conventional criteria, you'd probably say I am, but anyone's a success if they've got a happy life. And I'm not saying that as some sort of cliche trotting.
But that's
out.
true, that's
Bloody
true.
Success if they've had a happy life. And there are people who... I have never pushed my children, we talked about that, to do anything. They'll decide what they want to do. I've certainly never pushed them to be what's conventionally called ambitious. I pushed them to read, and that's all. But if they wanted to do something quite ordinary and sedate, I wouldn't comment on that if that's what they want to do. I'm a libertarian. You do what you want.
Oh, Bob, wonderful talking to you. You're back next week, and I'm just talking to you now, and I've got a subject I want to talk to you about. I took great notice of that business with the BNZ steel building in Wellington.
Right,
I want to talk about that. So next week, let's chat about that. Thanks, Bob. Once again, a big thanks to Sir Bob for joining us on The Beat Goes On. And before we talk to our special guest, we have some winners to announce from last week's show. 3 lucky Baby Boomer viewers have each won a copy of the Unzip the Fat Suit Using Your Mind by Maggie Wilde. From the draw, the winners were Kath Marshall from Nelson, Geraldine Edwards from Christchurch, and Baz Williams from Pakuranga. Congratulations to our 3 winners, and stand by your letterboxes. And before we continue, we ask of our viewers a special favour. Like us on Facebook. Stay in touch with the longest running chat show in New Zealand. And a reminder for all businesses catering for the baby boomer, if you would like to advertise on The Beat Goes On and promote your products, give me a call. That's Jared Smith at 09525 1512, 09525 1512. And right now it's time for that time when we talk to our special guest. Tonight our special guest is Sir Bob Harvey. The former mayor of Waitakere City now has a new job description on his card with Auckland City. It now reads Champion for Auckland Overseas Investment. Sir Bob Harvey, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
It's nice to be back.
Yes. Now, is it Sir
It's
Bob?
a real pleasure.
Sir Bob or Sir Robert?
I'm definitely a Sir Bob.
Sir Bob. Now, you're here tonight, Bob, because, can I call you Bob? Or
You should call me Bob.
Yeah, okay. You won't be offended, Bob, that I forget the
I've
Sir
never
part.
been offended by anybody.
You're here tonight, Bob, because a very important thing has happened. You were chairman of Waterfront Auckland, which was a wonderful job, all the development down there, but now it's changed. You're now it's great to think on your card it says Champion of Auckland Overseas Investments. So give us 60 seconds to a couple of minutes. What does the job entail?
Auckland is going through this amazing expansion and transformation. The super city has finally, I think, found its
Feet, yes.
It's got legs, and it's not going anywhere. It's just getting bigger, it's getting stronger, and it's getting more, I hate to use that word vibrant, but it's alive and well. And so we're seeing a lot of investment potential. And the idea is that I might take a bit of a net and go fishing. I'm not crazy about selling too much, but leasing, like we did in the waterfront, for instance, is a terrific concept. And certainly Chinese investors enjoy the possibilities of leasing. And that's what we did with most of the waterfront. We didn't sell anything, by the way. And so I see enormous potential with us bringing in a whole diversity of investment. Dubai,
Not just Chinese, but...
Chinese, Indian, Brazilian, Chilean, if you like. The world thinks us as an interesting investment opportunity.
So how and why was the job formed? What was missing before that they needed a champion of Auckland?
I guess that I have terrific credentials in China. I have a Chinese citizenship in Ningbo, which is great honour, and I have a Chinese name. And I've been 25 times to China. I guess that adds up to something.
If anybody knows China, you know it, Bob.
Sure. I wish I spoke Mandarin, which I don't, but I certainly have a great history and a long history over 50 years with China and Chinese people. So I'm respected, and I like China very much. A lot of New Zealand is a bit wary, I have to say. Let's put that to rest. Like, what does it mean? Well, it means...
There's a little bit of fear about...
there's a bit of fear.
Dominated.
And to be honest, there shouldn't be. It's a different world. It's a world of movement, as we see. It's a world that's changing rapidly. And Auckland, I'm talking about Auckland, is at the centre of great investment opportunities. This is a pity, because there'll only be two cities now in New Zealand, and that will be Auckland and Christchurch. Wellington, because they missed the opportunity of a lifetime, of a century, to look at amalgamation, like we did, which is a bit painful, and it's a bit of sawdust you have to eat. But my God, the super city has really transformed the suburbs and the burbs of Auckland and the feuding little principalities that were around. So the super city of New Zealand, Aotearoa, is going somewhere, and I hope to be able to fuel that.
Now, from the tyranny of distance, you say to yourself, we're at the end of the world. Why are these people attracted to New Zealand? What is it about us that they like, that they all want to invest here?
Firstly, it's a safe country. I think it's also a beautiful country. So I'm not thinking of people swarming all over the countryside. You know, if you put those images there, it's pretty unpleasant. But I'm talking about business development in Auckland. I don't think people are racing off to invest in maybe Timaru, or with respect to
Timaru. Hello, Timaru.
Hello down there, wherever you may be. They are looking at Auckland. Why? Because we were bold enough and brave enough to give ourselves a future. And that's really important, to be competitive with Australia. And I'm a champion of this new bid for the Lee Kuan Yew, world's most livable city. And I'm wildly enthusiastic that we may not only be a finalist, we actually might pull off this great prize. It's the Oscars of cities, by the way. The Lee Kuan Yew Prize next year will be announced. And I think that Auckland is a serious contender. Not because of infrastructure, we're still working on that. Not because of motorways, undergrounding of the harbour bridge, but because our culture and the way that we've been able to bring in new migrants and make them welcome and have a society which is truly worthy. And you asked that a very good question. Why do they like it here? Well, they like it here because they're welcome here. Maori, for instance, I think is one of the most welcome nations in the world.
It's got a great protocol for welcoming.
It has got an enormously
you can actually
franchise
it,
and it works. You drive down Dominion Road, for instance. Dominion Road is like, they're going to call it Eat Street or something. Well, it is just so alive with the most amazing diverse restaurants. So is out west. And so there's a great thing that's going on here, which other cities have failed to catch the magic of.
Now, I'm fascinated by the fact that you said those words that by becoming a super city, it's enabled Auckland to thrive. And where once upon a time, as mayor of Waitakere, you might have had a little feeling of annoyance that a super city was sort of dreamed up. And, and those comments about down in the Wellington district. So why do you think Wellington never went with it? What?
I think they lost the courage. I think that they thought too long about it. They pondered about it, and there were some mayors down there that probably felt differently about that. They may have saw Auckland from a distance, but I think the decision not to amalgamate was wrong.
So if you'd been called to a meeting of all those mayors, and they said, let's ring up Sir Bob in Auckland. He's been through the experience that we're being asked to go through. Let's call him down and we'll have a meeting. What would you have told those mayors in that room?
Do it.
Do it.
Do it or get lost in the crush. And now you see Wellington, it was big. Wellington City was about as big as Waitakere, in fact smaller. But there was all the lower huts and the upper huts and the whole. I'm not talking of squabbles, but they never went to each other's meetings, and they all wanted that little patch of power with those photographs of old mayors on the walls. I mean, that's bullshit, really. I mean, I'm seeing cities now from China coming here and saying, how can we do what you did? These are cities of 12 million to maybe 40, 50 million people. They see that cities, and I'm talking globally, cities of a size work. London works. I think brilliantly. Paris works. Although there's a lot of mayors, 400 of them, I think, run Paris. But it's the size, though they say that size doesn't matter. You bet your bloody life size matters.
Yeah. Here you are, now basically 6 years after the amalgamation, and we're always looking for signs, has the super city worked? And you're here tonight saying, yes, it's definitely worked. Where is it working well, you think?
Well, go look, stand back a bit, because things move very slowly, but suddenly they move in gigantic leaps. If you look at the motorway extensions, the great tunnel, which will change the map of Auckland, go and look at the Massey development, which is like as big as Invercargill up there, and I put the roads in, so I have some skin in the game up there. And the roads to the north, to the south.
They're all improving.
Yeah, but then look at the feeling that we've got. The south likes the west likes the west. I don't know, we all seem to like the North Shore for the first time in our lives. But the fact is...
you didn't say that, Bob.
I said it. They know how I felt about them. They all looked like too good for me. But the fact was, we all feel okay about being Aucklanders. Queen Street used to be dead. Now it's alive and well. Cafes are popping up everywhere. Ludo Campbell-Reid, who is a bloody genius, has managed to slow down the streets, and now we feel we can get around. The traffic is a problem, I have to say. But hey, that's called a big city. But we can't now get on the trains because the trains are so used, which I love.
Yeah, you've always dreamed of that, haven't you?
I put a double track to the west because I thought, we actually care about decent transport. I now come to work on a train that will get me into town in 20 minutes.
What a great job. I mean, you're not just talking about the waterfront, you're talking about the whole of Auckland. Oh, yeah. What's a typical day? Who will you talk to? Saudi Arabia? Indonesia will give you a call?
Well, I've been talking
Chinese
I'm talking this morning about the investment of a new film studios in Hobsonville.
That'd be great.
I bought that studios, the West Auckland studios, and they're now too small, and they've just shot a $100 million American TV production, and I understand they've looked at it at wherever in LA and said, love it. It's a space Game of Thrones. So we will now look at Hobsonville with maybe TV arms in there. So it's a great job.
And it confirms, build it and they will come.
And they will come. Yeah. Auckland we've built and they will come.
Yeah. Now, Bob, how about yourself? You're 74, you told me. 74. That's a grand age.
I've never considered age to be a hindrance.
Where are you? Not so much in the job. We've talked about the job, but how are you feeling personally? Fitting well?
Yeah, I'm still a lifeguard. I've done 60 years between the flags and Katikari Beach. Yeah. My son and my grandson are now in the club. So I've been a lifesaver made good, a clubby made good. And it's been a life, and I've just finished a terrific book I've been writing for 2.5 years with a group of people called Voices from the Surf, which is a history of the Kari Kari Surf Club.
Oh, that sounds great.
And, you know, over the years we've won 2 Royal Humane medals, a gold medal in the Olympics. We've had some of the best swimmers in the world in the clubs in the 30s and the 50s. We had the fantastic range of swimmers. We must have saved about 2,000 people.
Wow.
So I'm very proud to every weekend still be a lifeguard. It makes me humble. I still have to do what everybody else does.
You still look good in trunks, Bob.
You're never too old to wear Speedos, but you've got to work at it.
Remember they used to be called trunks?
No, I was never. I'm not that old.
Mum used to say, get your trunks.
They used to be called togs.
Yeah, togs and trunks.
They used to be woolen. And in fact, when I first started patrolling, we patrolled in a kind of like a neck to knee thing that lifeguards wore with the eagle on the thing. That was in the 50s. Yeah. They were cotton and pretty revealing, but we felt bloody good at it. But Speedos came along, I guess, and now, to be honest, everyone's dressed up. We patrol in wetsuits. You know, it's amazing how things
And
change.
now you're also a gym rat. A gym rat. You're in the gym all the time. That's
Well, I
good.
think that you've got to keep fit, that's all. You know, and it's all the indicators is that at my age, you've got to keep supple, you've got to do a bit of yoga,
So
you've
what
got to
is-
stretch.
Dad still with us? Or
No, my father died.
We're
at
just
about
trying to get
80.
a blueprint.
Oh,
a
I tell you what,
blueprint
you've got to
on-
pick your parents.
Yeah, so did
They lasted.
They lasted
yeah,
well?
Yeah, they lasted.
So you got
And,
another good 30 years left. you
Well, I
reckon, Bob?
wanted a 20 because the club is 80 this year,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get to the 100 somehow. I think you've got to pick your life and your lifestyle, and you've got to watch. I'm an enemy of smoking, and so that's a no-no for life.
Did you ever smoke?
No,
You never ever smoked?
No.
And yet you were surrounded when you were a young boy with everyone smoked, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Everyone. And
But swimming, the
Yeah.
swimmers never smoked.
Yeah.
Because they said it was just breath and breathing in the water. So we missed that, and I was chairman of Smoke Free. I was the guy that removed all the sponsorships, and boy, do they hate me. You know, I'd go to race meetings where everybody smoked, including the horses, and
Everybody
I had
smoked,
to,
including the horses.
And that was, you know, that was the world of Rothmans that owned everything
Yeah,
that we did.
they did.
And indeed, you know, there was a time when we removed those sponsorships from them, and the country has been better, and smoking has fallen greatly, except with Māori, I think, which is a terrific pain to me.
Look, Bob, tonight we've just touched a fraction of your life. I mean, you've done so many things, and I mean, if we were to talk about your life and all the things you've done, we'd be here for about 2 days. And no, congratulations,
Well, I've
you have
forgotten
had.
most of-
But looking back on, we should never look back. We should look forward. But anything you would have done differently, Bob?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
You had a.
No.
Give yourself-
It's quite an interesting thing to say, would I have... would I have gone differently down a different road? Would I want to? If they had that magical moment where the genie appears and says, "Would you like to do it again?" I would actually say no. This has
Really?
been
That's
bloody terrific. Would I have married the same woman? Of course,
Yes.
because I wouldn't have got the same kids. If you know, so it isn't in my life to think if I'd done that. I can't think anything, and I've made some bloody serious wrong decisions. Would I have made them again? Of course I would.
Yeah. Now, if out of 100, give yourself a score. Out of 100, how do you rate your life? Well, give yourself a score.
I'd give myself about 95. And the 5%, I guess you'll die without knowing.
Where's my pen? 95. Look, we're going to leave it at that, Bob. I congratulate you on, number one in knighthood. Yeah, I mean, you've been the mayor of Waitakere City. Now you're the champion of Auckland. What else could you do? Probably being an astronaut is probably the only thing you haven't done, Bob.
Well, I'm thinking of the next a big adventure. You know, I've climbed Kilimanjaro, swum the Straits of the Dardanelles, swum the Manukau Heads. I'm thinking of a water adventure, and stay tuned.
Ooh, Cook Strait?
A little long.
A little long.
But there's others.
Oh, come on, Bob. It's got to be cooked straight, Bob.
Good night.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Sir Bob Harvey. Coming up next on The Beat Goes On, we say a big welcome to John Murphy from the Central Car Company in Green Lane. John is more than happy to welcome our Beat Goes On viewers to his car yard and help them choose the next car of their dreams. John Murphy, welcome to The Beat Goes On once again, John.
Thanks, Gerard. Thanks for having me again.
John, you have followed Sir Bob Jones, you've followed Sir Bob Harvey. When are you getting your knighthood, John?
Oh, I don't think it's going to be coming too soon, Gerard. But no, I'll just keep working
I don't think
away.
mine's on the way either, John.
We'll just keep working away at what we do.
Yeah, I always, it always makes me laugh when you think two Sir Bobs, both in a row. Remember when there used to be, remember the 2 bob coin? Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, it was 2 shillings, wasn't it?
2 shillings,
2
yes.
shillings. God. Brings back memories when you think of those. There was
does,
a shilling, a
doesn't it?
sixpence and a threepence.
Yes.
And remember the price of cars back then, John. Wow.
Well, in the 60s and the 70s, they're pretty much what they are today, a lot of them.
So you think there's been a huge improvement in the price of cars compared to, in our society? What we're trying to say here, John, is that, say, my father's salary for a year bought him a particular type of car, but today it's much cheaper, isn't it?
It is, Gerard. In 1971, a Series 1 Jaguar in Shortland Street at Shorter's Car Sales would have cost you $2,850.
Yeah.
And that in proportion to a house, for argument's sake, in Mount Albert. The gap has certainly dropped on our sector. The houses have gone up, and the cars, you can still buy yourself something quite reasonable, 10 years of age, for under $15,000.
Yeah.
So I think that cars, there's a lot more of them in the country today than what there was in the 70s and the 80s.
John, we've got you in here today. You're on the program because of Baby Boomer Chat Show.
Yes.
And we're looking at cars, good cars for baby boomers. And you've even got me, you've told me about a Lexus that you've got.
Yes, Gerard.
It sounds good. I'm going to come and give it a bit of a spin myself.
Please,
so tell us about that.
Come in and take it for a decent run. You'll only end up liking it.
I think I need a trip to Hamilton.
You can do that. It's a 2005 Lexus, and it's what we call an RX 300. So it's an SUV. Very, very conservative to look at. It's golden colour. It's got gold leather seats, airbags, 3-litre V6 with a VVTi engine, which is train driven. The Lexus has got something about it, Gerard. They're reliable, they're smooth to drive, and they're efficient.
They're smooth to drive, aren't they? I've been in Lexus. Now, this is a Toyota company, isn't it, Lexus?
It is a Toyota company, yes.
What are they trying to prove with Lexus? They wanted to say that, yes, we do make cars for the people, but we're also capable of making really, really, really good cars, as good as the Germans. Is that what they set out to do?
And they've done so. In 91, they brought out what they call a Toyota Sora, which was the V8 4-litre quad-cam engine. And they guaranteed that engine to do 1 million kilometres if it had been serviced by the Lexus agent.
Wow.
And they, Gerard, they just seem to have something a little bit extra that a lot of the other European cars may not have, and that's certainly durability, smoothness, efficiency. When you go to Singapore now, and you drive past those 6- and 7-star hotels, there's not the big Mercedes as much, but there's always the Lexus part there ready to go.
Yeah. John, are you surprised still? Can you still be surprised how good cars are getting now? All the new improvements. In my 30 odd years in the car industry, Gerard, the car has just gone. It really has gone in leaps and bounds. The technology now is wonderful, isn't it?
It is. My only comment to that is that a lot of the auto manufacturers are saying today that they're only making and designing these cars to last for 15 years.
Yeah.
And you're beginning to see it in a few models where they probably haven't got the durability as much as what they had on the more orthodox cars that had standard shock absorbers and chain-driven engines and so forth. But they
really only need to last 15 years because it's the fashion's changed, don't they?
They do. New Zealanders tend to have always wanted to because they have been such an expensive thing to buy. Generally,
they were supposed to last 30 years, weren't they?
Go for 30 years and making retro parts to make them to go, go for longer and so forth. The only thing I can comment about that, of course, is that they are now a lot less to buy a decent car, a reasonable sort of car.
Now, John, you talked about the Lexus.
Yes.
That's around about the 15,000 price mark. Say that was a little bit too expensive. Well, let's go either side of that. We'll go for something around the 6-7. What, you got a good car in that area?
Yes, we do.
For our baby boomers?
We do. We have a...
Some of us on the pension now, John.
I understand, Jared. A 2008 Suzuki Swift, which is a current model shape. 1300cc engine. They come in 2 engine sizes, and that's the smaller of the two.
Yeah.
Once again, airbags and air conditioning and so forth. I think it was rated as the most popular car in New Zealand last year. And we've got that 08, 93,000 kilometres. It's a sapphire blue in colour, very tidy car, and that car is for sale for $6,995.
Wow, that's a great price, isn't it?
And that's drive away, and that comes with a 6-month warranty with our company.
Now, what say we've got a baby boomer who's just won Lotto and he wants to splash out. What can you offer him?
Yeah, we can help you there. We've got a Mercedes-Benz S350 AMG Enhanced. That's got the AMG kit. It's the facelift version, so you've got the new LED headlamps under the bumper and the new headlamps in the front, tail lamps and so forth.
Sounds beautiful.
I'll get you to take a photo of this car. It's really magnificent. It's Astral Silver and it's got several black leather seats. And that car's for sale for $49,995.
Wow. What's that brand new?
I think
well over 100, wouldn't it?
No, be over 200. I think it was 208, 205,000. I stand to be corrected, but it's a full feature vehicle and it's lovely to drive. It really is something fantastic.
And can you remember how many owners it's had?
This is a one owner car.
One owner.
It's
down to $40,000.
$49,995, $50,000.
49. Don't forget the 9,000.
But it really is a magnificent. It really is a magnificent car. That's in our used Mercedes-Benz. That car is well worth a look at for anybody out there that wants to buy something that looks smart.
Now, John, you know how doctors have good bedside manners?
Yes.
I bet you've got a good car yard manner.
Yes.
Tell me, what's the first thing you say when a person walks on? Welcome to the world of John Murphy.
We tend to listen for the first 5 minutes and just establish, you know.
And it takes a long time to learn that, to listen for the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think you've got to listen.
A lot of young salesmen, they just keep talking, don't they?
I think New Zealanders, they don't need it. They don't need to be told what to buy.
Yeah.
And we try and spend money on dealing with the people that we've sold cars to already, which a lot of people tend to forget about.
So what you're doing is you're building good relationships with people.
Yeah, we have. You know, I could stand on the yard and we have quite a few people driving past and so forth that come in because we've been there so long. And because of the specific nature of our business, we tend to have a fairly loyal clientele.
Now, John, it's not just one car yard, is it? You've got, how many car yards you got?
We've got 2 that we're operating at, and one's on next door to Nosh on Green Lane East.
That's
at
right.
152 Green Lane Road East.
Now, that's more of the cheaper cars?
It has been. We've been finding it fairly difficult to get a lot of stock in the last 3 weeks with the inclement rain conditions, Gerard. But we've got a few. We've got a.
And that has a different name, though, doesn't it?
That's Cornwall Motors.
Cornwall Motors.
Yes. And
now you come around the corner, and that's where you are, John?
That's where my office is, and that's Central Cars.
Yep.
And that's at 380 Great South Road.
380 Great South Road. And John, you're one telephone call away, aren't you?
My landline number is 529.
529. Baby boomers, are you listening to this? 529.
1974.
1974.
Yes, and I'm always there, and like I've said in the past, I'm never too far away, and that's 7 days a week.
Yeah.
When, you know, people tend to like to look on a Sunday afternoon and so
that's a good time, isn't it? Sunday afternoon, it's nothing to do.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
but we're also open for the shift workers at 7:30 as well.
Oh, great. Well, John, I'm going to see you because I'm coming to have a look at that Lexus.
I look forward to it, Gerard.
Oh, I can see myself in that Lexus.
Yes, I can see it. Once I get you drive it, I think it's going to be hard to get you out of that car.
We'll get the cameras to film it because I won't bring it back.
All right.
You can say, that car used to belong to me, it's disappeared. Hey, John,
Thanks, Gerard.
Good to talk to you, and I'm going to give you one more time to tell us that telephone number.
Our phone number is 529
529
1974.
1974. Thanks, John. We're going to see you in 4 weeks' time.
Yes, Gerard.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye now.
He's a singer, and he's a man that can shake, rattle, and roll. And he takes us down memory lane week after week with Where Are They Now? And the Song of the Week. To finish the show, it's our pop encyclopedia, Shane.
Shane Hill.
Good to see you.
Shane, do you realise that no other chat show in the whole of the history of New Zealand since prehistoric times, let's go back 4 million years.
Well, we could do that. Us too, easy.
There's never been a chat show in New Zealand's history in the last 4 million years that have had two Sir Bobs.
Sir Bobs, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So your name's got to be Bob to get ahead in this world.
Sir Bob Jones and Sir Bob Harvey.
Yeah. They're still
Right
bobbing.
after each other.
Yeah, well, I'm really bobbed out, you know.
It's never been done before.
No.
4 million years they've been waiting for the planets to line up.
Where do you come sometimes? I wonder what planet you're on.
I think that's amazing.
And I must say, both of them are damn nice fellows.
They are, aren't they? They're
nice
great
fellows,
guys.
Yeah, both great guys. They deserve their sirships.
Now, Shane, tell me.
Yes. Well,
Gossip,
what about,
please. Gossip.
Yeah. Gossip. None
You've got
really.
10 seconds for
I'm
gossip.
just looking forward to New Lynn this week. It's Friday. It's the 28th.
Yep.
The 28th. We are definitely playing New Lynn and calling all Westies. All Westies out there. You've got to be there. So, and you're going to come along.
Oh, yeah.
I know. You're a bit of a shaker and a mover lately. I saw you the other night when we went to the Big Do at Lopdell House.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shaking.
That was shaking. You were a little bopping along there and having a good dance. I saw you.
It's called desperation, Joe.
Yeah. It's called
Desperation.
I'm moving.
Now, Shane, there's something quite marvellous happening tonight. For the first time in a long time, our song of the week, it hasn't been a dead person.
This week we can celebrate someone still being alive. Their star has not faded. This is definite. And I'm really looking forward to it. So you intro me and I'm away.
So, Shane, I can just say once again that everything we've said up until this point pales into insignificance
Certainly does.
compared to
Song of the Week. And it's a beauty. Now, it is a beauty, and of course, it's a live beauty. What can you say? His name is Art Garfunkel. Now, his star definitely hasn't faded. He's still working very hard. And November the 5th this year, he turns 74. 74, doesn't it? Years go by. But he's still out working. He's on a tour in the UK at the moment, and then he's on to around Europe, and then he's back to America. Yeah. And I don't know why he's working so hard, but he's, you've got so much money.
Shane, there's a track that Simon and Garfunkel sang, which I love. It's a beautiful song called "Old Friends."
Oh yeah, lovely.
They're
song.
sitting on a park bench,
That's
and
right.
they say these immortal words. They say something about the fact that one day we'll be 70.
Yeah,
and he's actually 74. Wow. Now, Shane, can we pause? I'm just going to play that little bit where he mentions about 70.
Okay,
So why
I'll
don't
do
we,
that just for you.
We'll just pause and we'll listen. Here's Simon and Garfunkel, 10 seconds singing that immortal line. Just shows you how time goes by. Here it is.
Can you imagine us years from today, sharing a park bench quietly? How terribly strange to be 70. Old friends, memory brushes the same years, silently sharing the same fear.
Beautiful.
No, they were 30. They were 30 when they sang that.
There are so many classic tracks that Simon and Garfunkel do, but like I said, I'm going to concentrate on Art this time, and give him he tends to be. He was always second name. He was always the second name, Simon and Garfunkel. And Tom. He was always Jerry when they were Tom and Jerry. So I thought, well, we'll feature Art because he largely gets forgotten that he's had quite a career.
I wonder what the feud was about. Why they couldn't work together.
Oh, the feud really was just about, artistic differences, because Garfunkel had a lot more to do with those records than he's given credit for. At the beginning there, Art was basically, he designed the vocal structure, he worked at all the harmony parts and how it was going to be sung and all that sort of, that was where his art was best, he knew what he was doing with that stuff. And he also did a lot in the production side of the records. He sat back in the studio and said, we do this, we do that. and thus he felt a little bit accoladed.
Undervalued, Shane.
Undervalued was definitely.
Yeah.
And he had this beautiful angelic voice, and he had that voice right from day one,
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning.
Well, where it started,
Right
I mean, 5 years old, that's when he really took to music. He grew up in New York, of course, in Queens, and he went to school there, everything else, but at school they had this stairwell, and it was tiled. So if you went down the, click-clack of all the heels and the noise and everything, and your voice would resonate right through the 2 or 3 floors of the school. So he would wait till school was over, and everyone's left. He would go down to the stairwell and sing down there.
Wow.
And because he loved the sound that he got on his voice. So he was this is 5 years old, I'm talking about. His father comes home, he was a travelling salesman, his father. And he comes home with one of the early tape recorders, the old-fashioned tapes and things.
A Telefunken.
Yeah, a Telefunken. Basically, that's the one I had, actually, the first tape recorder I ever had.
German made.
It was Telefunken. Rewind, as you go, all manual. Anyway, and his father brings one of these home, so that inspired him immensely. He's like 9 years old, and he's going, wow, this is great. He can do this, and he can rewind and tape his voice and so that's how he perfected his singing style. He started to learn at a young age. He was just taken with this. He was going to be a singer. There was no doubt about it, And of course, by the time he's at college, and he meets Paul Simon there. That's where the two of them met at college. They went to the same school, grew up in the same area. And Paul Simon wasn't that interested in music when he met him. He was just, rock and roll, stuff like that. But what happened was 1955, 56, they're both in a play together. And but they incorporated the song because Art was already making a bit of a name for himself, Arthur, as he was known then, Arthur. And he was making a bit of a name, so he had this lovely, pure voice. And so they wrote a song into the play, Alice in Wonderland, and it was Nat King Cole's song, and it was called They Try to Say That We're Too Young. Remember that, Too Young? And you can imagine this lovely, pure voice singing that in the thing. Paul Simon heard this several times while they were doing the play and so on, and he thought, wow, this guy can sing, this is good. Yeah. And it really stirred something inside of him that made him want to get into music. He thought, well, I'm going to start singing, I'm going to learn to sing too. And they became very good friends during the play, and that's where they started bonding as far as music goes. That's how it all started. They idolised the Everly Brothers, the two of them. So that was at the beginning of their career professionally. And they actually wrote a song together. In 1959, they released it, Hey Schoolgirl. For them, for a first record, two 15-year-olds, it was like, it got to number 49 in the Billboard
amazing,
charts.
isn't it?
Amazing for them. But then disappeared from out of sight. School took over, and they both had to study hard. And he was no mean dude. I mean, he was a great scholar, Art Garfunkel. He studied mathematics. Later on, he ended up teaching mathematics during like a break in Simon and Garfunkel. He went to school and taught mathematics.
Wow.
So school's over, and they become very clever little lads. Both of them, they decide to pick up where they left off with their music career. Well, they make an album, their first album, Wednesday morning, 3 a.m., which everybody knows, because it had success after it was released, long after The Sounds of Silence became a hit, because what happened was the record did nothing. No one was interested. In 1964, it released nothing. The Beatles and everything else was happening, and there was this folk music. But what happens is their producer, he takes it in the studio, sticks a nice jangly 12-string guitar on Sounds of Silence, which he loved the song. He thought that's got to be a hit. Jangly guitar, puts the drums, the bass on and everything else, rings them up and says, guess what, come and have a listen to this. Lots of echo on it. Puts it out there, goes to #1 in the charts. It had already failed the year before on the album. No one was interested in the album. But putting all this jangly stuff on it, bang, went to #1. Wow. And we all know Sounds of Silence was magnificent. And
Hello, Darkness, my old friend.
Of course, the two of them were off on their career, and they had a great career, and still to this day, just about, I mean, they really have continued. They've got back together, they've split up, they got back together.
But you mentioned, you've alluded to the fact that he suffered from depression.
Oh, he really did. I mean, what happened was his girlfriend at the time Laurie Bird. Now, she was an actress and a poet and a photographer and all that sort of thing, you know, up in the society, the showbiz society sort of thing in New York, and they shared a flat together. She committed suicide with an overdose of Valium in their apartment that they shared. And, of course, he was devastated at the time. It was a shock and everything else. No one knows why. But the funny thing is, her mother, it just happened to come out later, but had the same thing. She committed suicide. So, the mother and the daughter both, the father must have been absolutely, I'm digressing again, but what a tragic story. The mother and the daughter both committing suicide. Separate times, obviously. But, you know, it wasn't a mass suicide or anything. But we know you laugh, but it's not funny, it's terrible. It's, very sad, very sad. And what I'm trying to get serious about this, but it sent him into a fit of depression, a very deep depression. His father died around about the same time, so that just you know, cemented it. That was it. It was all over. In 1981, he released an album. It was dedicated to Laurie Bird, and the whole thing was doom and gloom, and no one picked up on it. And it just died. And the whole album, it was a disaster.
The album didn't.
And he was depressed totally. Anyway, Paul Simon comes along and says, come on, we've got to get back out on the road again. So they get up and they go on the road again, and he managed to pull him through it in the end. And it must have been a big help to get out on the road again and sing. Yeah. And now, in recent days, the poor guy, just to top it off, he's actually ended up losing his voice.
Has he?
And he's on the tour in Europe, 16 shows in the tour. He only did 3. And one of them was the big festival up in Sweden there at Gothenburg or someplace like that, with the proms, you know, with the orchestras there, the audience is there, thousands of people have come to see this big thing. And right before the concert, he says, I can't speak, I'm lost, I got no voice. It was a disaster. Wow. He had to can the show right there and then. But now, he's back on the road again, but I noticed he's doing a crazy thing. If I was him, he's doing 3 or 4 nights in a row, big concerts. You know, the Albert Hall, then up in Glasgow. And then he's going over to Carnegie Hall in America. And he's doing boom, 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 all in a row. 4 nights in a row. And he knows he's got this problem. It's better to just take it easy. Do one big show, take a couple of nights off. He's not like he needs the money. I don't understand it. But at this very moment, next month, he's on the road. He's doing concert after concert. 4 or 5 in a row, and I think he's just heading for disaster myself.
So, Shane, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. He certainly has walked over a bridge of troubled water, hasn't he?
He certainly has, and I think he's still walking it. Precariously.
And that's a clue. That's a clue that tonight our song of the week has got to be
from 1970, written by Paul Simon for Art Garfunkel, the classic "Bridge Over Troubled Water."
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Times get rough, and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Darkness comes,
Shane, it is a classic of all times, isn't it? It's beautiful.
And his voice at its peak is just angelic. Beautiful, beautiful piece of music, written perfectly for him. You know, no one else could interpret it as good as that. And I've heard many versions, but he does do the premiere version.
He does.
Okay, now look, 25 million records. That's how many that single sold. 25 million of singles. Now, did you know? Did you know?
This one escaped me. This
Well,
one.
he's an avid reader.
Yeah.
Art Garfunkel, and he keeps an updated thing on his website. And since 1968, he has actually read over 1,000 books. It's well into 1,200 now, I think. He never stops reading. He's well read, obviously, but he's even read the Random House Dictionary, and that is that thick, you know. He's read the whole dictionary. I mean, the man has an obsession about something.
Yeah.
But there you go. So one hell of a scholar, though, and one hell of a singer. He's given us some wonderful music over the years.
Now, Shane, could there be a song written in the future called Bridge Over a Troubled Sausage?
Troubled sausage. I'm a troubled sausage, I can tell you. God, you're driving me mad with that sausage.
Sterling job, old sausage. Sterling job. Wonderful job.
Sausages.
Shane, I can only say once again and with great pleasure, Shane, you've done it again.
Sail